Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to CLLST. I hope I'm audible. Can I have a quick shout out? Can I get a thumbs up that yes, I'm audible, you can hear me? Yes, no, कुछ तो बताना होगा. Then only I'll proceed further. Am I audible to everyone? Clear? Okay, so let's assume that I'm audible since none of you are replying. So, considering today's session is basically focusing on decoding legal section, and that too from CLAT 2026 perspective. Now, when I say CLAT 2026 perspective, so some of you may have started your preparation, Abhi se. Some of you may have started your preparation in class 11th and you will be writing CLAT in class 12th. Some of you are in class 12th and have started your preparation. And some of you wrote CLAT this year but somehow couldn't get into NLU. There are certain factors. It's not that I'm saying that because of you couldn't get into NLUs. Multiple factor plays you kind of, you can say, very important role. Sometimes it's also like sitting in the examination room and we don't know what to do, what not to do. Sometimes we do get that panic thing also, looking at our peers. So there are multiple factors. For some reason you guys could not get into NLUs, and it's like, still you guys are in class 12th, you will be having your boards in the next few months. So you're still, I mean, somewhere worried that what shall I do. Like some of you are saying, shall we go into any of the colleges, or shall we take a drop? So see, if you want to, and if you are aiming for NLUs, so there's no harm in taking a drop, because just after, like, you're done with your boards, your result will be out, and within 6 months you'll have CLAT 2026. So considering that, if you are planning to take a drop, then again you'll have to start from very scratch. So those who are in class 11, those who are in class 12th, those who would be, rewriting CLAT, for everybody, it's the time where we shall streamline our preparation. CLAT 2025 is done. So now, since 2025 is done, we need to focus on 2026. And from that perspective, we have to start from the very basics. Even if I wrote CLAT, I couldn't clear it, I should not be under this impression कि मुझे तो सब आता है. ठीक है, सब आता है, that's good. For 6 months you should be preparing and, writing mocks and everything. But we also need to sit and analyze where we had made the mistakes, and what are those mistakes which we shall not be doing in next year. So considering that, it is very important for us to understand what CLAT expects from us. And before I mean, I would be explaining the syllabus, I would be breaking the syllabus for you, but also, other than syllabus, what you have to keep in mind and what you need to work on is your past year paper. Understanding syllabus is one thing. Second is getting an idea as to what CLAT expect from you is another thing. So पहला काम करेंगे, we'll keep a copy of syllabus with us. The second one would be, we would be solving CLAT paper from CLAT 2020 till 2025. So 6 years basically, you have 6 year ka paper. You need to solve these papers not only from the legal perspective but from all the sections perspective. Maybe if you guys are attempting GK from 2020 or 2023, it won't make any sense. So maybe you can skip GK. So when I'm saying skipping GK, let's say हमने 15 minute हटा दिया. If we remove that 15 minutes which we give to GK section, within the remaining time we have to see whether we are able to complete the paper or not. So this is the time where first we need to understand syllabus. Second is, if we are starting practice from the past year papers or maybe from more, the initial idea of ours shall be not to, it shouldn't be like that मुझे 90 marks नहीं आ रहे, मुझे 100 marks नहीं आ रहे. That shouldn't be our target in initial months. In initial months, our target shall be, whether we are able to finish the paper on time or not, because CLAT is quite lengthy if you look at each and every section. And that is why, although we are decoding legal here, I have added in the slide English also, logical also, GK also, quant also, to give you an idea as to understand how lengthy the paper is. So, our reading speed, it should be really good. It is not about just reading and finishing, it is also about reading and comprehending. Then it is also about whether we are able to, go through each and every passage, go through each and every question within the given time period or not. Also, we have to keep at least 10 minutes in hand to fill the OMR sheet. सो ये सारी प्लानिंग हम इनिशियल डेज में करते हैं. हम इनिशियल डेज में अपने मॉक्स के साथ खेलते भी हैं. खेलते इन द सेंस है कि वी ट्राई डिफरेंट परम्यूटेशन एंड कॉम्बिनेशन टू अंडरस्टैंड कि क्या मेरे लिए वर्क कर रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मे बी इफ आई एम राइटिंग द मॉक्स और आई एम राइटिंग द क्लैट पेपर, so maybe what I'll do is pehle I'll go for English, then maybe I'll not go for legal or logical together, because these three are quite lengthier section and we have to read a lot, and in question also we have to read a lot. So what I'll do is I'll solve legal, then I'll go for let's say GK, because it's a smaller section. Aata hai to theek hai, nahi aata hai to we'll skip it. Then we'll leave that question because there's a negative marking also. Then after GK, I'll move to legal, and then quant, and then logical. So this is what I would be doing. But again, it depends on you guys. What suits you? What works for you? And accordingly, you can plan a strategy. So initially, like let's say if you guys are starting writing mocks from January, so January, February, March, will not focus on our score, will not be worried about how much I am getting. Even if I am getting 40 चलेगा, 30 चलेगा. पहले हमारा टारगेट होना चाहिए कि हम पेपर फिनिश कर रहे हैं टाइम पे. उसके बाद धीरे धीरे विल अंडरस्टैंड टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, विल आल्सो अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर आवर वीकनेसेस, what are our strong area. Accordingly, we'll work on our weaker sections, and accordingly we'll try to improve our score gradually. So let's say if in the first mock if I score 40, so maybe in the next mock I'll try to score around 45. So every mock will also try to have a kind of uh, idea that we are scoring more than we'll try to increase our score by 5 marks, or we'll try to improve our score by 2 3 marks. So these, I think there was some power cut issue, so the mic and camera, everything went off. Yeah, so what I was talking about, we'll try to at least improve our score by 2 3 marks initially, then 2 3 marks initially, then maybe 5 marks. So ऐसे target रखते रखते we'll try to reach a target of, let's say, 100 sort of by September. So if you keep a gradual target for yourself, then only you would be doing better in mocks, you would be doing better in actual CLAT paper. And also, guys, always keep in mind that we are going ahead with our top target. That kuch bhi hai, our aim shall be the top three NLUs. Then only we'll be able to get into NLUs. And also, while you are preparing for CLAT, don't forget to prepare for ALET also. So, moving ahead now, I think I have set the agenda for today's session. So, what I'll be talking about is what is today's lessons objective. So, understanding the question types, understanding the skill required. This is CLAT 2026. Let's keep in mind, slide is saying 2024, but let's understand that this is 2026. Shall be a 2 hour test with 120 multiple choice questions carrying 1 marks each. There shall be negative marking. Paper is divided into 5 section: English, current affairs, legal, logical, QT. And here I'll be taking you through all the sections. Maybe I'll not be discussing all the sections in detail because the concerned faculty would be explaining to you what you are supposed to do in English. Similarly, they will be explaining to you what you're supposed to do in logical, quant, and GK. But then also, because legal, GK, English, some of the aspects are very common. So considering that, we have to take that aspect into consideration, and that is why I have kept all the sections in my slide. So the first one is English. English says again you would be getting of passages of around 450 words. So देख लो यहाँ पे भी पढ़ना है अपने को. And it is saying that two type of passages would be given fictional and non-fictional. Non-fictional, it is saying historical significant contemporary issues in art and culture. Contemporary issues you'll also find in GK. Contemporary issues you'll also find in legal. Similarly, art and culture you'll find in GK. Historical significant you'll find in GK. And if you go back and check past year paper, the sources which they mention that from where they have picked the passage, they say that it is from newspaper also. So I mean different newspaper from where they have picked. So the idea of keeping it here is there is an overlap between sections also, considering the type of passage they would be asking. So you need to focus on this aspect. Then it is saying what are the type of questions which they would be asking in English. General understanding, specific detail, and interpretation based questions. Then question type is also saying main idea, tone based, logical structure, details, specific argument, inference, analogical, everything you would be getting. And these are something, guys, which you have already done in class 10th, class 11. So you need not to worry कि बहुत कुछ अलग सा है. No. It is something which you have done. It's just that you need to practice and you need to practice more. CLAT is all about practice. जितना practice करोगे उतना अच्छा you guys would be doing in this particular aspect. Okay, one more second. There's again some issue. Just give me a second. I think this slide is not moving. Any which way, since slide is not moving, I'll be talking about the other aspect with respect to this. Just give me 1 or 2 minutes basically to finish this off. Meanwhile, you guys have any question you can ask. I would love to answer your questions. I have got your question as to how to read legal section, so I'll come to that for sure. But sorry for the glitch. From where I can get practice questions for any law entrance examination. So Pranshi, for that, एक बार पहले तो past year paper करो, last 6 years paper, to get an idea as to what type of questions are being asked from contract and torts perspective, or for that matter, constitutional law or any of the basic law, what type of questions they are asking. Then you can also refer to the sectional test and topic test which is given. Also, it is important, I mean you guys may feel or may have this perception कि CLAT तो पैसेज based आता है, तो past year paper मेरे लिए relevant नहीं है. So that is something which shall not be in our mind. Past year paper is still very relevant for us, even if you take into consideration older CLAT. What I'm referring to here is before CLAT 2020, whatever was the type of a paper pattern which was there, if you refer to those papers also, it will help you a lot. Because one thing which you need to understand is the type of questions, or I mean the type of passages or the way they are asking questions have changed. But there you were getting two liner principle based questions, and then you were supposed to answer the same, applying the same in a given fact situation. Now the only thing which they have changed is they are giving you a passage and you have to figure out the law in that particular passage, and accordingly you are supposed to answer. So even if you go back and practice from past year paper, that will help you a lot. So this is another way of practicing and going about the questions or the type of question which is being asked. So look into your my zone section, look into the sectional test, topic test, the booklet which you have received. It must be having past year papers or past year questions. Try solving from there. So all these are things which you need to keep into consideration. Also the question with respect to how to go about the preparation. So let's say there are two way or three way of practicing. One is पहले आप book पढ़ के आओ, then you look at I mean attend the class, and then go back and read from the book or revise it from the book again, and then practice the question, because this way you are mastering the entire concept. और the second way is आप पहले questions class attend करो, then आप जाके उसको घर पे वापस से पढ़ो, and then you solve the questions. So now the PPT is working, so let's go back to the legal section, because I'm the legal faculty, so this is what I wanted to explain, but I just wanted to give you a brief idea about English and other sections as well. So in legal section, you would be getting a passage up to 50 words. And they have divided the passages into three aspects: legal passages, public policy passages, and moral philosophical questions. Before that, CLAT says that if you go back and check the website of consortium, they say that prior legal knowledge is not needed in legal section. Then, when you look at the very next line, it says if you have an idea about the law, it is going to help you. So, keeping that thing in mind, if you have the basic understanding of the law, you have an edge over the other. Because let's say if you get a passage on absolute liability, तो आपने पहले पढ़ रखा है, तो you'll just have a quick look at the passage and then you can directly jump to the question. So basic idea of law is important. Also, legal knowledge based questions can be asked in your GK section. So considering that, when you are reading newspaper, you need to keep an eye on the legal information also, from judicial perspective, from government perspective. And as per CLAT website, they says that the passages would be divided into three sections: legal passages, public policy passages, and moral philosophical questions. So when I say legal passages, so the thing which we need to keep in mind is anything which is having law in it will fall within the definition of legal passages. For example, law of contract, law of torts, constitution, criminal law, IPR, environmental law, anything which is talking about law will fall within the definition of legal passages. It can be from the static aspect, like the basic laws, contract, torts, constitution, criminal law, and all, or it can be from contemporary legal development. Let's say Supreme Court is coming up with judgment, government is coming up with law which is regulating the conduct, will be called as a legal passages. Then the second one they say is public policy aspect. So this basically refers to laws, regulations, or actions which is taken by government or government institutions to address social issues. It focuses on practical solution to problem through policies, maybe through programs, maybe through frameworks, maybe, or you can say the focus area could be the legislative actions, like government is passing on any laws, regulations. Then government is implementing things through certain programs. Then government is assessing social, economical, cultural impact of certain decisions. Or it is kind of creating a balancing the diverse stakeholders' interests, like government, public, judiciary, everybody. For example, if government came up with the law about the prevention of unfair means during the examination, so it is a public policy passages. Similarly, during COVID, if government came up with a complete lockdown, so it was kept in mind, like the action was taken considering the health of people. Or for that matter, government planning to bring uniform civil code, data privacy law, all these are public policy questions or public policy passages. And the third one is moral philosophical aspect. So moral philosophical aspect is about what is right, what is wrong. And again, here is a catch: something may be right according to you, may not be right according to me. Or for that matter, what you feel is good may not be considered good under law. Or maybe law is having a different perspective. For example, if you go back to Supreme Court, look at Sabrimala issue, which is pending before the Supreme Court, a 9 judge bench. Here the question is with respect to essential religious practices. Or if you go back and check CLAT 2020 paper, there was a question on obscenity, which is again taking into consideration moral philosophical aspect. Or if you go back and check OTT platform debate, where government started regulating OTT platform, again moral philosophical aspect is coming into question. Protection of environment, fundamental right, fundamental duties, moral philosophical aspect is somewhere attached, that you have a right, you also owe a duty towards the society. Similarly, you can also take into consideration the environmental aspect. All these are somewhere having a moral philosophical aspect attached to it, or for that matter, let's say the other thing can be what seems to be right to you may not be right as per judicial perspective, as per the legal perspective. So such type of questions are also being asked in the examination, and the best example of this is go back and check 2020 paper, the passage which is talking on obscenity. So I hope you have a fair idea as to what they expect from you in legal section. Then they also says the type of questions which they would be asking in legal section. They're saying understanding author's argument. Then again, it is divided into a statement that can be attributed to the author. Now, if you look at this, this is having some link to English section. It is also having some aspect from logical section attached. So that is there. Then reasoning, which is used by author. We just saw English wala slide. There also it was like an interpretations. Or if I go back and take back to you, this is talking about interpretation, similar situation. Then it is saying identifying reasoning, identifying specific purpose. So this is again, you can say, having some aspect of RC, some aspect of, you can say, logical also. If you go back and check CLAT 2024 paper, there were questions which were more of RC in nature rather than legal in nature. Then application based questions, applying author's reasoning to a fact situation, applying specific principle given to a fact situation, as I was just explaining to Pranchi also, that you need to take into consideration the law which is given, and then accordingly you are supposed to apply it in a given fact situation. So these are certain things which CLAT expects from you. Now, since I have explained you the basic idea behind the passage, can we have a quick discussion with respect to a passage and two questions? I hope that works for everybody. So here goes the passage. Read it, then we'll move to the two questions. So I'm giving you 1 minute ka time to read this. I think it's done. So let's move to the question. Here goes the first question. Read the question and answer it in the chat box. It says, which one of the following can be attributed to the author of the passage? A. Sophisticated mining technology can be brought about only if multinationals invest in mining. B. For multinational to invest, there is a need for reducing the time taken for approval of mining licenses. C. Amendment to two Legacy Act through the mineral laws ordinances will increase large investment. D. The center's decision to liberalize norms for entry into coal mining is detrimental for mining sector. The first thing is here we would be excluding D. Why? Because it is saying detrimental, which means it's a negative concept. But when we go back to the passage, the very first, very second line says, or the first line says, the relaxed regulations on mining and selling coal in country is significant in many aspects. So basically, the author is praising. So considering that, D gets ruled out. Now the question says, what can be attributed? So attribution may, some of you will say ki C is the right answer, and which is mentioned in the passage also. But here, C is not the right answer. Why? Because although author is talking about the amendment and everything, in the very last line, the author is saying कि if you want to have some investment, you'll have to basically do more, such as whitening the time taken for approval of mining lease, and also easing the process for entry. So, considering that, although C seems to be the right choice, it wouldn't be the right answer, and obviously A is not the right choice. So, considering that for multinational to invest, there's a need for reducing the time taken for approval of mining licenses, which is option B, is the right answer. So, this is how you are supposed to answer in the mocks also, in the practice test also, and in the question paper also. Here goes the second question. Read it. It says PQR Limited is a company involved in a high end luxury product based in India. Its turnover last year was 8,000 crore with a profit margin of 22%. It wishes to bid for coal block based on the information in the passage above. Decide. It can bid since anyone with finance can bid for coal blocks. It cannot bid since it does not have necessary finance, which is nowhere mentioned. And somebody having 8,000 crore with a profit margin of 22% means does have some finance. It can bid for the block provided it can demonstrate expertise. It cannot bid since it does not have business expertise. So if we go back to the information given in the passage, it clearly says this will open up the coal mining sector completely, enabling anyone with finances and expertise to bid. So basically, only finance will not help. You also need to have certain business expertise. So considering that, option C would be the right choice. So this is, I just picked a small passage and I just gave you two basic questions which you were supposed to answer basing on that particular passage. This is not very, you can say, kind of in depth basic thoughts. Contract bhi nahi hai aapka, static law bhi nahi hai. It's just the current type of information which has been given in the shape of passage. So aapko current affairs mein bhi you have to keep an eye on. You also need to revise static portion. Also, when you are reading something in newspaper from the legal perspective, from current affairs perspective, you need to understand कि इसका static aspect क्यों है, क्या है, why there's a discussion happening. For example, in CLAT 2020, there was a question on absolute liability and strict liability, because in year 2020 Vizag gas leak had happened, and that is why they asked the question. And why they asked the static and strict liability and absolute liability, because there was this confusion. NGT had stated earlier that it is a case of strict liability. Later on, it was said that it is a case of absolute liability. Just since it was in news, they asked. So static, current, आपको दोनों mix करके चलना है, and you have to study from both the perspective. Then, to give you a basic idea about logical section, as I stated that I'll be talking about, this is the type of questions which is being asked in logical, identifying conclusion, premises, inference, everything is being given over here. Skill required is concept of logical argumentation, strategy to answer each type of questions. These are the things which obviously the logical faculty would be taking into consideration. And then current affairs and GK. Again, it is saying contemporary events of significance from India and world. Art and culture, we saw this in contemporary events in English also, in GK also. Art and culture in English also, in GK also. International affairs, historical event, we saw there also. So basically, if you read newspaper on daily basis, if you are giving 2 hours to newspaper from this perspective, all whatever is being given in GK section, you are not only preparing for GK, you are also preparing for legal, you are also preparing for logical, and you are also preparing for English. And how to go about newspaper reading is, or how to go about current affairs is keep newspaper as a primary source. The secondary source can be your Manthan. To revise, you can use Manthan 2.0, but the first source should be newspaper. In newspaper also you need to identify what all to read. First of all, identify the newspaper which you want to read. So either go for Indian Express or Hindu, whatever works for you. Then identify different topics like polity can be there, judiciary can be there, economy can be there, science and tech can be there, environment can be there, then international affairs, which is a very famous of CLAT. They keep asking questions on international affair. So international affair, miscellaneous topics, may you can put events like sports and awards, like the sports and awards will be there, books and authors would be there, and many other things like Oscars and all. So all these can be kept in a miscellaneous topic. So just identify 6, 7 headings in newspaper and accordingly focus on the same. Also, editorial reading is must, not only from GK perspective, but also from the English and logical perspective and legal perspective. Because in editorial, you get a author's reasoning, or you understand how author is talking about a particular topic, whether the author is critical, whether author is praising, all these things when you read editorial you get a clear understanding of. So considering that, editorial is a must thing. And then QT, the most, you can say, important section, because it plays a major role, and the section which most of you are afraid of. But please keep in mind, if skipping QT, you are out of the race. So considering that, thoda thoda practice karo, thoda thoda try to master the QT, and once you are, at least even if you get 5 6 marks in QT, you are in the race. So never try to skip QT. So these are few things. Although the session was based on decoding legal section, but I thought I'll be taking into consideration each and every aspect and will give you a fair idea as to what to read about legal section. And from the very next class, we would be talking about, or we would be referring to the static topic, we would be referring to the current affairs topic, which we feel is important from examination perspective and also to make you guys understand. So, the task for the next session, before the next session, would be please practice past year paper. You can start from CLAT 2025 and then you can move to 24, 23, 22, 21, or 20, or vice versa, whatever works for you. But please start practicing. So, this is all about today's session, guys. I hope you guys have liked and subscribed to the channel and the session was helpful. See you guys in the next class. Thank you.